Bishop Noel Jones was a name that carried weight, respect, and admiration wherever it was spoken. To many, he was not just a preacher standing behind a pulpit, but a voice of hope, a man whose words had the power to heal broken hearts and guide people through their darkest seasons. His sermons were not ordinary speeches. They were filled with passion, conviction, and a depth that reached beyond the ears and settled into the soul. When he spoke, people felt seen, understood, and inspired to believe that their lives could change for the better. Over the years, Bishop Noel Jones became more than a spiritual leader. He became a symbol of strength and resilience for countless men and women who were searching for meaning and direction. Many testified that it was his words that lifted them from despair, his prayers that gave them courage to keep going, and his presence that reminded them that God had not forgotten them. His voice carried comfort, and his eyes reflected the fire of someone who believed in every word he spoke. Outside the pulpit, he was admired for his charisma and wisdom. Wherever he went, people welcomed him with respect and love. To his followers, he was not just a bishop but a guiding light, someone who had been placed in their lives at the right moment, showing them a way out of their struggles. His influence made him a living legend, a man whose impact stretched far beyond the walls of the church. But behind this greatness, behind the applause and admiration, there were parts of his story that few people knew. While the world celebrated his strength and success, only a handful of people understood the quiet battles he carried within. Beneath the surface of his powerful image, there was a silence that told a very different story. As the years passed, the weight of ministry began to take a toll not only on Bishop Noel Jones, but also on the relationships closest to him. His life was constantly surrounded by crowds, church responsibilities, and endless commitments. While thousands felt connected to him every Sunday, the truth was that his own family often felt the distance. The man who gave so much of himself to the world sometimes struggled to give the same time and presence to those waiting for him at home. There were moments when misunderstandings grew, not because he didn't care, but because his calling demanded sacrifices that few truly understood. The pressure to always be available for others left little room for him to nurture the bonds of family and friendship in the way he wished he could. Behind his smile, there was a quiet guilt, a feeling that he had given the best of himself to the pulpit, leaving very little for those who loved him most. Friends who had known him for years noticed the change. They could see that the sparkle in his eyes often masked a hidden sadness. His laughter, though genuine, sometimes carried a heaviness behind it. And though he was surrounded by people, there were times he felt completely alone, like no one could fully understand the burden he carried. These cracks in his personal life did not come from a lack of love, but from the constant demands of being a leader who was expected to be everything for everyone. It was a silent sacrifice, one that hurt deeply, even if he never spoke about it openly. In the midst of carrying the weight of ministry, family pressures, and his own hidden struggles, Bishop Noel Jones faced a battle that shook him even more deeply: his health. What started as small signs of fatigue and exhaustion slowly turned into something more serious. There were days when his body refused to keep up with the demands of his calling, yet he pushed himself to continue, believing that people still needed him. Doctors warned him to slow down, to take rest, and to focus on his well-being. But for Bishop Jones, resting felt like a form of letting people down. He had always been the strong one, the one others leaned on, and he could not imagine stepping away from the pulpit, even for a short while. Every time he stood before the congregation, he pushed through the pain with a smile, hiding what was really happening behind the scenes. But the truth could not remain hidden forever. His health became a constant reminder that he was human, fragile, vulnerable, and not immune to the weariness of life. The stress of years in ministry, the emotional battles, and the loneliness he carried all began to show in his physical condition. Those who were close to him could see the toll it was taking, but they also knew how hard it was for him to admit that he needed help. The man who had given hope to thousands was now struggling to hold on to hope for himself. And though he tried to remain strong, his declining health became one of the most heartbreaking chapters of his life, a battle that revealed just how much he had sacrificed in silence. Bishop Noel Jones carried more than just the responsibilities of his ministry. He carried the hopes, dreams, and expectations of thousands of people who looked up to him. Every sermon, every public appearance, every word he spoke was weighed with the understanding that so many were relying on him for guidance, comfort, and inspiration. This constant pressure was invisible to the world, but it rested heavily on his shoulders every single day. It was not just the congregation that expected perfection. Even his peers and colleagues saw him as a symbol of strength. People assumed he was untouchable, always steady, always confident. But inside, he often questioned whether he was enough. Could he continue to meet the expectations of others while also trying to care for his own fragile heart? This silent struggle became a daily challenge, a balancing act between being the leader everyone needed and being a man who needed care himself. The weight of these expectations sometimes made him feel trapped. He could not simply step away without fearing disappointment, criticism, or the sense of letting people down. Even in moments when exhaustion and doubt took over, he reminded himself that his role was bigger than any one person, including himself. The irony was painful. The very people he sought to uplift unknowingly added to the burden that was slowly wearing him down. Bishop Jones's story teaches a quiet truth about leadership, that carrying the hopes of others can be both a privilege and a burden. While it inspired millions, it also left him vulnerable to moments of deep fatigue and internal conflict, moments no one could see, but that defined much of his personal journey. Even after facing his breaking point, Bishop Noel Jones's story did not end in despair. Though his struggles were deep and his journey heartbreaking, the legacy he left behind became a source of hope and inspiration for countless people. His life was a reminder that even in moments of weakness, there is strength, and even in pain, there can be purpose. The lessons from his journey went beyond the pulpit. People began to understand that the man who had once seemed untouchable was, in fact, human, someone who faced challenges, made sacrifices, and carried burdens quietly. And yet, despite everything, he continued to inspire, guide, and touch lives. His honesty about his struggles encouraged others to embrace their own vulnerabilities, to seek help, and to recognize that it is okay to not always be strong. Bishop Jones's story also showed that leadership is not about perfection, but about persistence and compassion. His ability to continue serving, even while facing personal battles, demonstrated a rare courage. Those who knew his story realized that true inspiration comes not from a flawless image, but from witnessing someone rise, continue, and impact others, even in the midst of hardship. In this way, his legacy became twofold. It was both a testament to the extraordinary impact he had on others and a powerful lesson about the quiet struggles every human being faces. His life taught that pain and vulnerability do not diminish greatness, they deepen it. And through that death, Bishop Noel Jones left a lasting mark that continues to touch hearts, reminding the world that hope and humanity are intertwined, even in the most difficult circumstances. The tragedy of Bishop Noel Jones is beyond heartbreaking, not because he failed, but because he carried so much of the world's weight while quietly fighting his own battles. His story is a reminder that behind every strong leader, every confident voice, there may be hidden struggles that the world will never fully see. It is a story of courage, vulnerability, and the quiet human cost of leadership. Even in the face of immense personal pain, he continued to give hope to others, to guide those in need, and to inspire generations. And though the heartbreak of his struggles touches deeply, it is also the source of a powerful legacy. People remember him not just for his sermons or his leadership, but for his humanity, for showing that strength and vulnerability can coexist, and that even in moments of personal despair, one can leave a lasting impact. In the end, Bishop Noel Jones's journey reminds us that true greatness is not measured by the absence of struggle, but by the courage to continue despite it. His life and legacy remain etched in the hearts of those who witnessed his journey, a story that is profoundly moving, deeply human, and, indeed, beyond heartbreaking.